I'm going to start one place and one place only. I'm going to keep it close. I'm going to keep it family. And that's my cousin Paddy scoring the winner for Round Towers of Clondalkin in the intermediate Dublin hurling final of a Wednesday night. The score coming up on the screen there at the moment. A little beauty.
I didn't
He didn't lick it off the floor.
No, I didn't realise it was your cousin. I should have known it was an ulterior motive. It's a fair score under pressure now.
But like, look at them wrists. I mean, where do you think he got?
Definitely didn't get from your side of the family. It's somehow.
Yeah, so Clondalkin beat Clontarf. Paddy Smith would be one of the main men there, who of course should get an All-Star nomination.
Should have got an All-Star nomination.
Liam McGovern is another lad who we should have mentioned before.
There's a couple of lads. It kind of goes like that 45 is. It's really important to try and be on the 45. It's a big deal getting an All-Star nomination. And those two boys were particularly hard done by.
By the way, Round Towers Clondalkin, they're going to have to play Scully Connell to see who won the Senior B, to see who goes in the Leinster Intermediate Championship. I was just thinking, you know, the weather out the World Cup at the moment, and the farce that it's becoming, that teams are getting knocked out due to a typhoon. And you've got the athletics at Doha, the World Cup going to Qatar. Any chance of an All-Ireland final above in the moon? Sea of Tranquility or something like that. Anyway, but like, games could get called off at the moment. Like, there's been a few games refixed, and we'll talk about some of them.
Get messy if they do.
Yeah, and I tell you one place. I was down at a county final in Clare a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. Sixmilebridge were playing. I remember because that man Niall Gilligan delivered, of course, as he does so many times. And the weather was rain sodden. It was horrible. Carlow against Sixmilebridge. If it is a dirty day, who's that going to suit?
Sixmilebridge.
Yeah. Do you think they're just a dogged team?
They're a bit more than dogged now, to be fair. There's a fair bit of substance to them as well, and a fair bit of style. But they just invariably seem to get the job done. You look down through the team and you're thinking, maybe they shouldn't be as good as they are, or as they're so reliable, so consistent. Like, that's why Carlow will probably have all the names, but Sixmilebridge are going to be hard beaten.
And there's pace in that Carlow team. Conor McGrath, Podge Collins, a few more like that. Shane O'Morey's going to have to cover a lot of ground in that backline for Sixmilebridge.
Sixmilebridge have the backroom team is outrageous.
They have an inter-county backroom team. So Tim Crowe is the manager, Davy Fitzgerald is the trainer, Saoirse Bulfin is involved. The Wexford S&C coach, Mike Frawley, he's involved as far as I know. It's unbelievable. And I think that is happening more and more. A club team looks up and sees, right, one of our players is in there and he's with the county team, he's in unreal shape. How do we get the rest of the boys looking like him? Chances are you won't, but you want to bring them up closer to that level.
Yeah, and I think club teams are a lot less reluctant now to go for somebody who's already tied down to a job, particularly if they know, obviously Davy was gone till early August or late July, but he was around a lot before that, but there doesn't seem to be much of a problem with that now, as long as you're guaranteed that when he's around it's going to be very deadly, and by all accounts it is. Like, I chatting to Davy about a month ago, I'd say, and he had 80 sessions done with Sixmilebridge, and that's on
that he was at?
Yeah, and that's on top of minimum 120 with Wexford this year, I'd say. So you're talking, I kind of just made out, and it was like the guts of 200 nights out of about 220.
But would you have the appetite for that? I know you can be absolutely stone mad for hurling, but to show up that often. Now some of them might be a Saturday morning session or a Sunday morning session. You still have the rest of the day.
It's your voice. Even resting your voice, your motivation to go and do it.
And he got married there so recently.
Yeah.
How would you how would a woman take that?
Fair play to her. That's a proper GA one. She's obviously George Sparrow Loughlin's sister as well. She knows the story.
Yeah.
But it's fair going, and it's a serious background team. Should be a serious final. Should be a serious final.
Another serious final could be the Waterford final this weekend between Ballygunner and De La Salle. Ballygunner going for 6 in a row. Is it 32 games unbeaten? Is it even 33 now? Brian the Bull Phelan, he's over De La Salle. I think everyone's just going to assume Ballygunner will make it 7 or will get the 6 in a row here.
You kind of just assume it until it's stopped. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You kind of just think, sure, listen, they'll always pull it out. Even if they're not going that well, they'll always pull it out. I think if anybody's going to stop them, De La Salle are probably the most likely. They've won a good few under 21 titles in the last couple of years. The likes of Jack Fagan, obviously Kevin Moore.
You tried to interview Jack Fagan this week.
Yeah, no, I did actually. Yeah, I just got to him there last night, but he didn't want to do anything just till after the final. He's an interesting one though, because he obviously came down from Meath, and playing with De La Salle. He actually said he wasn't sure who it was contacting him, and he realised it was me, and he said he watches the videos, which is great. But yeah, he's an interesting one. John Milan retired at the end of last year. I think he kind of said there was enough young lads there to kind of keep it going, which is...
Kevin Moran is still in there, everyone would know him.
Yeah, so like De La Salle were in All-Ireland Club semi-final a couple of years ago. They were in All-Ireland Club final a couple of years before that again.
A lot of those players would have moved on, like Milan and John Keane, who's involved as a selector now. So you do have to try and bring through new players, which isn't always easy. And I have to say that half back line of Ballygunners, when they hammered Dungarvan, it was down on the programme afterwards, the match report, as Philip Mahoney, Barry Coughlin, who was the county full back last year, and Shane O'Sullivan, who was on the panel for God knows how many years.
Yeah. So he's a sports psychologist actually as well. Yeah.
Like if you're going long on top of that half back line, you're in bother straight away.
Yeah, big time. Yeah.
And it's like Barry Coughlin. I remember we played a challenge match against Ballygunner with Coola back in 2015, and he was midfield for them that day. And I remember one time he ran past, and I was just blown away by his speed. And I heard afterwards then that at one stage he was the fastest player on the Waterford panel. And I don't think he's 30 yet either, so he's definitely...
No, he was only 28 when he retired.
Much maligned.
One of the most maligned players of all time, I'd nearly say, to be honest with you. Just because Waterford were playing a sweeper, just because he didn't clear the ball at 90 yards every time he got the ball. If ever there was an example of a selfless team player, he's probably your typical example.
Yeah, and people would always say that the one time that he had to play fullback and not have a sweeper necessarily in front of him full time was that semi-final against Kilkenny and Thurles, the replay, and Colin Fennelly got a couple of goals on him, but still it's very, very hard.
Colin Fennelly's done that to someone.
Oh, she's unreal.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
and I wonder, would Liam Cahill think, can I get this lad back in?
Yeah,
because this is an audition for any of these Waterford players.
He's still he's young. He still has a couple of years, and as you say, what's the first thing to go? Your legs. His legs clearly aren't gone. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if he is able to coax him back.
And you were looking at a couple of quotes from Desi Hutchinson, who was with Brighton and Hove Albion before. I'll read out a few of his quotes from
it's just an interesting comparison between feeling belonged in a soccer dressing room or a soccer club as opposed to a GA club.
Yeah, so this was in the Waterford News and Star. He said, when you go back into the clubs, there's no mention of soccer. You're just one of the lads again. I knew my comfort was going into the two clubs. He also plays with Galtier in football. I was never looked at any differently, and it was great. It's like a family, and it's something that I haven't had. When you're over in England, you're always competing against the fella next to you. You want him to do bad, and he wants you to do bad. It's not nice at times. Then you go into a dressing room like Ballygunner, and there's lads willing to die for you. I know the fella beside me has my back, and I'll have his back. Which is a great way.
It's summed up very well. And when you've been away, I suppose it's when you only realise it. Desi Hutchinson is an interesting one. He scored 4 points from play the last day in the semi-final. He's only 22. He's not like a 27-year-old coming back from soccer. And I wonder, would someone like that be someone that Liam Cahill would look at for next year? He's a young guy. You could turn him into a project over the next 2 or 3 years, and probably if he has it at club level and he has that played in a professional environment, you'd imagine there's a fair chance he could make it at inter-county. Yeah, plus he's a forward. Well,
especially being young and you can't beat speed. Yeah. And I've always said it, I think the reason Waterford were playing sweepers is not because they had bad backs, but they had forwards who couldn't keep the ball up there, who didn't have enough of a threat, so it's better to keep it as a low scoring game. But even just there was a tweet put out and a chart put out by @GA_stats talking about senior clubs and their winning streaks in terms of titles in a row. And at the top is Aaron's Own of Waterford, who won 9 in a row from 27 to 35.
We weren't around for that one.
No. Although I had my birthday this week, and a few of the cooler lads did some.
Oh yeah, did you? Yeah, I had mine last Sunday. Yeah.
My God.
Yeah.
But a few of the cooler lads did creative photoshops making me look like I'm 100. So they used that face app and made me look older than I am. Mount Sion, they were the joint top actually with Aaron's Own. They won a 9 in a row from 53 to 61. Then Glen Rovers in Cork had an 8 in a row back in the 30s and early 40s. A Han after them. So I'm not going to run through the full list, but it's an interesting one, and you can see on @GS.
Burr there with 5, 99 to 2003, and then Rhinus, the big great Rhinus team of the 70s, 72 to 76, yeah.
1895 to 1899, commercials in Dublin, who could forget? Right, the Galway quarterfinals are on this weekend. Just to list them out: Crockwell are against Turlockmore, Tommy Larkins against St Thomas's, Liam Mellows against Sarsfields, and Capitagle against Loughrea. So just a look at Crockwell there. Like the likes of Niall Healy, Jamie Ryan, Thomas Monaghan, who I was watching for, I think it was Mary I, was it earlier this year? Very impressed with him, whoever he was playing with in fifth. Angus Callan, is he with them? No, he's not with them. He's with Liam Mellows against Turlockmore, who are supposed to be the coming club in Galway. they've been winning their Féiles. Daithí Burke is a player that everyone's going to know. His brother Ronan Burke involved in the team. That's a nice little quarter final
interesting
there.
one. I tell you what, I just chatting to a few people in Galway about, you know, possible lads that could come into the Galway senior team. And a lot of the time, just even looking at, like, say, Niall Healy, there would be a classic example. A lot of the lads impressing at club level are of an older variety, shall we say. You know, the likes of, say, Thomas Monaghan, I thought someone like him would have made more of a breakthrough.
Yeah.
There's a, I don't know, at club level, a lot of lads seem to be standing out are, say, just, you know, late 20s, early 30s.
Is that one of the failings of the past few years with Galway, that they haven't brought through the players that look like they should? You know, Thomas Monaghan, Sean Loftus, who's played games, and I thought he'd have made more of an impact by now, and might do yet. But maybe that's one of the failings of what's happened. But
yeah, the only thing I will say about that is, like, if they're not better than the older fella,
for sure,
the older fella. Like, a lot of lads say you have to bring in young lads, and you'd be like, do you? Like, do you necessarily if they're not better than the lad that they're replacing?
So Tommy Larkins against St Thomas's, and Tommy Larkins, they kind of, I think, flew away from Athenry late on in their preliminary quarter final, 1-3 in injury time. Jason Flynn is a standout player for them.
Sirdle's club, of course.
Yeah. Can St Thomas's bounce back from their All-Ireland defeat this year? You know, because it was such a heavy pace, and that they'll surely be determined to right the wrongs there. I mean, they've Davy Burke and all the other Burkes are involved. Conor Cooney, of course. Yeah,
there was the subplot to the All-Ireland final. There was a kind of a fair bit of drama in Thomas's that week, just with a few health scare for kind of Éanna Burke that week, and there was a few other, like, bits and pieces that maybe, like, might have been, like, mitigating factors of why they didn't perform. But, like, I remember watching earlier on the year when they played Mellows, and they absolutely destroyed Mellows. Yeah. Fintan Burke is probably still out.
The cruciate done in the All-Ireland.
I presume he is. He'd be edging closer, but I imagine he's still out. But they still have, you know, Davy Burke, Éanna Burke is back hurling to the best of my knowledge. Kenneth Burke, Shane Cooney, Conor Cooney, Bernard Burke,
James Regan.
Like, they've a lot of very, very good hurlers. It's a very, very strong club team. And the thing about it is, when you have so many lads who are in around the county panel as well, they've been back there for an awful long time. Yeah. They've been back there since mid-June. So of all the teams, they should benefit from having all those inter-county players that train had that level of training with the county.
And they would have needed a break too, because they were on the go for so long between club and county. Liam Mellows against Sarsfield. So against Oranmore Marie in the last round, Mellows apparently just showed some of their 2017 form when they won the county title. They won 6 points to 1 in the last 10 minutes, so that was important. Everyone will probably know, like, Tyke Harron would be their most impressive player.
Yeah. Even just saying about older players, he's late 20s as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and definitely. Sars won it in 2012, and I think that was against Crockwell. After a replay, they ended up losing the All-Ireland semi-final to Cushendall. Right, yeah. Joseph Cooney in there, and I was trying to find out, is Carol Wade still playing, so people can let us know if he was. He was an absolute ball of lightning when he came on the scene.
He was brilliant. Yeah,
was that around 2011? I feel like it was 2011.
Been, yeah, he wouldn't be. He'd be just gone 30 or 31, I think. Now he actually was. He was training greyhounds there for a while as well.
Was he? Yeah.
One of his main professions, or what he was doing. Yeah.
Capitagle against Loughrea. Everyone will know Johnny Cohen with Loughrea.
Ollie Baker's over Capitagle. Capitagle have been thereabouts, beaten narrowly in the last two semi-finals, I think, as well. So they're not far off. They're all interesting games in their own right, and you couldn't really, really confidently call anyone in any of the four. Like, you wouldn't be that surprised if any of the four, you know, if any of the teams on either side were going to win. You know, it'll be interesting now.
A few games in Kilkenny this weekend, so we'll start off with so there's a quarter-final replay, a refixed quarter-final, and a semi-final.
I told you one of that won't be far off against O'Loughlin's, and they could do them the next
time. 12 points apiece, but you'd imagine O'Loughlin's would improve for that. Like, what I saw was Mark Bergen hitting some unbelievable scores at the start of the game. Then his shooting went a bit awry, and like he's obviously a very good player for them. Paddy Deegan getting on plenty of ball at the other side of the field, but like, horrendous conditions at Nolan Park, and you know these games were on telly, and it wasn't a great advertisement. But you can't blame any of the players, because if inter-county hurling was going on in these conditions, they'd be brutal matches. And if club matches were going on and on the hard pitches in the middle of the summer, they would obviously improve as well. They wouldn't look like inter-county games, obviously.
It's funny, like, it'll show you just this weekend is going to be, all accounts, it's going to be a good bit different. Like, so the games are going to be poles apart, be completely different conditions. It could be something like 2-17 to 1-17 this weekend. You know what I mean?
One of the lads was saying to me, the difference between county championships, like in Kilkenny, it's not a surprise to have scorelines, and this is just from the last week or so. 12 points apiece. Aaron's Own Dixborough 1-8 to 1-6. St James Stevens 19 points. Roar 15. A lot of low scoring games, real attritional sort of stuff that reflects the inter-county team. You look at Cork and there's a lot of turkey shoots. You look at Tipperary, there's plenty of turkey shoots. Now, and some of the scorelines in Tipperary last weekend, which were insane scorelines, there was extra time in there. But I think the general point kind of rings true. And like, if anyone has any thoughts, let us know on that. But for Mulnavat, John Walsh, he scored 5 points. Willie Dwyer, he has 4 All-Irelands. Yeah. Willie Dwyer, like from 06 to 09. So they're still going strong. Aaron's Own against James Stevens. So as I said, it was a 1-8 to 1-6 win over Dixborough, and they kept the Borough to 2 points at half time.
And they themselves didn't score for the last half hour, I think.
The Comer men, though, that's kind of even. That was even what Richie Power got across when he was doing the analysis before that game.
Yeah.
Conor Delaney there at centre back, and Conor Fogarty at midfield.
Well, yeah.
James Mullen scored 4. They're one of these really solid sides, and every score you get, every free you get, every ball you get, you're going to really have to earn it. You know what? There's certain teams you can say that about. There's other teams where it's more of a hurling match. Yeah. If you know what I mean. Like Comer are the classic. Everything you're going to get, you're going to have. Yeah, you're probably going out thinking, oh Jesus, this is going to be an absolute war.
You're going to try and break your heart.
Yeah, I'm going to be black and blue here. So Aaron's Own they're against James Stevens. So James Stevens beat the Roar 19-15. Owen Guilfoyle at 6, Niall Brazel 5, Luke Scanlon 3, Conor Brown and Cian Kenny scored 2 points each. And it was Owen Larkin who gave a masterclass at centre back and kind of sweeping. What do you reckon? What do you think about players changing position as they get older? Because he would have been in the forward line for Kilkenny for so many years. But as you get older and the sort of legs aren't quite where they used to be, you kind of do have to change position to become effective.
I think it totally reinvigorates it. He's basically been a target. So every match he's played for the village, probably since he made his debut at 18 or 19, he's been targeted. Stop Larkin. We're getting their best defenders on Larkin, and now it's just a complete change.
Well, even look at Jackie Tyrrell. He's been brought in the forward line.
That's right. Yeah.
As well,
it's just a different change. It's a change to them. You get that spring back in your step. I remember I was put up centre forward, just 5 or 6 years ago, and having gone from like a cornerback pulling jerseys and running around after a lad, you're the one making the run yourself. You're the one deciding what you do. It just gives you a different. It gives you a different perspective on the game.
You also know, like, and I've done that at times too, to sort of throw him up in the full forward, sure, hopefully the ball will stick to him. But having played in the back so long,
to him like the jersey.
Yeah, you kind of feel like, I know what this back doesn't want me to do.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't have the speed anymore to do it, but you at least kind of know, right, if I bring him all the way into the goalkeeper, and then he's wondering, do I stand in front of my man now? Because it's weird me and the goalkeeper standing on the end line, and he's got 20 yards in front of him if a ball is popped in nicely. But then if he stands in front of you, he's like, he has to keep an eye back the whole time and wonder where you're gone. So, there's a bit of experience with time.
The most difficult part is all that movement and stuff is grand and trying to outthink your man. The hardest part is particularly if you go from playing, we'll just say wing back to wing forward. Wing back, smashing a puck out to wing forward, and you're trying to get your bearings. You're the one that's taking the hit.
You have the man behind you, and you're normally looking at man and ball and trying to cleave, leave a little something on while you're up there.
The way I describe it is, if you're going from a back to a forward, you're going from being the bully to being the one being bullied. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So
maybe for you.
Yeah. I know, but like that is general. Like as a defender, you're the one. You should be the one.
Laying down the marker.
Dominant. Yeah, you should be realistically. Yeah, so it's interesting to see. It just gives you a new lease of life to change of position.
Ballyhale against Clare, so that's refixed, of course, after the tragedy last weekend. Eugene Ale were very, very, very tough times in Ballyhale, and I suppose the big thing is you just wonder where are the players after that. I mean, the hurling for it's the last thing in their minds at the moment. But is it something whereby you can use it? Well, not use it, of course. I definitely think that's the wrong way.
That might just solidify the squad, but like it's
but you know how trivial hurling is when something like that happens. But I mean, is there an element of wanting to do it for him? Is there something like where like you just want to get out and do something positive. Maybe that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
You want to come out and just be like, that was a tough week, we'll go out and do something positive, even though it's irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. So we'll have to see how Ballyhale come out with it. They of course have the quality, they're All-Ireland champions. Yeah. TJ's ankle, there's talk that hasn't been right in recent times.
It was total devastation in Ballyhale.
Of course.
And it's a very quick turnaround from the funeral to the game. It probably goes one or two ways. It solidifies, and everyone, as you say, everyone wants to, they have a lot of cause, but there's something they want to go out and do something for him and for the club. It can also go the other way, where it could just leave you totally drained. Like when something like that happens, like it's an awful situation to be in.
Clara don't have a whole lot of form either, so I think we're very much in the unknown with this game. There's a couple of intermediate semi-finals on also. Thomastown are against Freshford. So that has the makings of a good game. Maybe Lacton's, St. Lacton's are Freshford. Maybe they'll just about edge it.
I think Tucker Hanratton, who would have won a good few Club All-Ireland or Colleges All-Irelands with Kieran's 5 or 6 years ago. I think he's out injured with a broken finger, which would be a big loss for Thomastown, who, by all accounts, they put up a serious score against Glenmore or Murphy's Club the last day. John Donnelly was absolutely on fire, and they would have had a good few guys that would have played under 21.
John Joe Farrell there?
John Joe Farrell being there as well, yeah. So they're Thomastown are the poor relation of the senior camogie team who have been winning Leinster and
all of John Joe's sisters running the show. He's a fair cack-handed sort of a way about him, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's an awkward one. Like
so from Molly Walsh, what is it about Kilkenny? Wouldn't see that in the tip team.
John Joe scored 1-5 from play in the 2016 Leinster final.
He got Leinster Player of the Year,
Player of the Year, and
he scored the 1-5 off Oisín Goff.
Yeah, and was left off the command.
And saw it into the cooler.
He was basically gone off the panel, I think, the year after.
So the other semi-final in the intermediate, Tullerone against Goran. Tommy Walsh is full forward.
Yeah, apparently so, flying it.
I'd say he'd be hard to keep into. So the information I have anyway is they got the Tullerone are on a bit of a mission, but they got clipped in the league final to a last minute goal, so there's a question mark there. They've lost 2 games out of 25 in the last 5 years in the league, but can't give up and get over the line in the championship. Wasn't it Greg Ballycallan won it last year?
Coming from a mile behind,
Do the soft conditions suit their lively forwards? That's the question. Goran dangerous, but maybe they'll win that one.
Mikey Carey, of course, will be playing. DJ's son, probably centre back, I'd say, for them. Yeah, be interesting.
So moving on to the Carlow situation. So the semi-final refixture, Ballinkillen, of course, rightly made an awful lot of noise after the situation where there was a clash between some of their footballers who were involved in another club, and then of course that was the day before the hurlers were supposed to play St. Mullins. The game ended up being awarded to Mullins because Ballinkillen weren't going to put out a team under those circumstances, but eventually, we've seen the right decision being made.
Yeah, I'd like to say common sense prevailed, but it didn't really, because Carlow GA...
it had to be bet in.
Yeah, Carlow GA basically didn't... Ballinkillen were out, according to Carlow GA, went to Leinster Council and they were still out. And it's basically because St. Mullins went to Carlow GA officials and said, we want to play this game.
Yeah. And
if they hadn't, the game wouldn't be played. And you have to really tip your hat to St. Mullins. It's like, they obviously want a game and don't want to be in a final for no reason. But it'd be very easy just to say, listen lads, we're in a final, like, we don't really care that much.
Like, you're waiting a whole year to actually play this sort of game. And the last couple of weeks, the players are going into training, and I wonder they're even half-heartedly training. Now, maybe not the Mullins lads, they're just wondering, when are we playing? Yeah. Whereas Ballinkillen players are like, are we going to be playing? So that's a bit of that'd mess your head up.
Colin Bonner would be happy. The fact that, well, number one, he's going to have all his Ballinkillen players available next year. Number two, that the Ballinkillen players, if they were in with him, don't feel that the Mullins is why he didn't stand up for us here. There's no rift. If anything, it
solidifies things.
A bit more. Yeah.
So we move on to the Tip Hurling Championship. It's at the quarter-final stage this weekend. And just first of all, I want to touch on the top scorers from play in the Tip Senior Championship. Hurler on the Ditch had it, so you can search for him on Twitter. But the top scorer in the championship from play at this stage is Billy Seymour, who was on the Tipperary under-20 team that won the All-Ireland this year, knocking in goals for sport. Very, very good player. So he's a Killadangan man who's number 1. Number 2 then, another Killadangan man, Ty Galler, who's a really exciting minor player, just savage speed. The next then is Adrian Ryan of Templederry. He was on the senior panel for a while. Stephen Murray of Burgess, and then Timmy Hammersley of Clonoulty with 26 points. Of course,
Timmy put up last weekend?
He put up 19 points last weekend against Tumivar. Now, an awful lot of them were from place balls and it went extra time. But Timmy's brother Conor Hammersley, who was the Tip Club Player of the Year, he does the S&C with Coola, and on Monday there was a sort of a recovery session, and Timmy was there as well. He came along, they lived together, he came along to the stretching session, so he was trying to play down his 19 points, but I was telling all the Coola lads to bow at his feet. But
something going. I was at the Tip final last year, and I think Timmy only had a point scored up until about the 25th minute, and then ended up with double figures, including 3 or 4 from play. Like, outstanding.
So of some of the other players that are playing this weekend, I'll just read out the fixtures. So Toomevara against Kildangan, Nina Airog against Airog Anacarty, Bursley against Drummond and Clonoulty against Killerwan McDonagh. So McDonagh. Some of the other players that are in this list: Conor Kenny, he has 25 from play, so he's for Bursley. Dylan Quirk of Clonoulty, I think he was kind of like had some sort of an illness in the last year or so that held him back. I think he's a player that's going to be very good. Cian Darcy's in the list, Conor Cleary of Killerwan, Mark McCarthy of Toomevara, who's been back on the Tip panel there in the last while. So Seamus Callan, 17 from play, and we'll just start off with Toom against Kildangan. So Kildangan have shown themselves to probably be the better team here, and they won the North Championship that Toomevara are also involved in. There's a small bit being made that Toomevara had to play extra time last week, and now they're being made play on Saturday. You know, you'd think that they'd be playing on the Sunday to give them that extra bit of a break for both teams that got through. I wonder, you have to wonder, who do they know on the county board? Who do Kildangan know to make that happen? But
usually, I'm like, common sense rarely prevails in the GA, but usually does with something like that. You know,
and like if the likes of Billy Seymour, Ty Gallagher, and some of those other very good forwards that Kildangan have, if they start to have a field day, and you know, if Toomevara start to tire, they'll be in a bit of bother.
Kildangan beaten there.
Yeah, I agree. So the battle of the Aerogs, Anacarty against Nina. You'd imagine, like, Nina haven't played in a few weeks. That's probably the only thing holding them back a little bit here. But I think most people would fancy Anacarty, who lost the West final after a replay to Clonoulty.
Most people would fancy Anacarty.
Sorry, most people would fancy Nina here, but they just haven't played in a few weeks.
I would fancy them to get through there too.
Bursley against Drummond. So this is the battle of St. Joseph's School in Bursley, as far as I'm concerned.
They'd all be going there, would they?
An awful lot. I'm sure some other people would probably go to Templemore or maybe Thurles, but the likes of Seamus Callan, James Woodlock, Brendan Maher, the brother Paddy, Dan McCormick, you know, they would have all gone to Bursley. So it's a battle of the Palace Street there. More. Dan
McCormick not go to Our Ladies in Templemore.
Wait, he did actually.
Yeah.
Actually, look, he'd be a good bit younger than me.
Would you believe? I actually was involved in a Harty Cup League game that played. I was doing teaching practice there. Dan McCormick was playing, and I think Lee McGrath, who was captain of the minor winning football team, they were all playing.
Lee McGrath got sent off last week when Clonoulty beat Clockmore.
Okay. I actually took the warm up for the boys before a Harty Cup match.
Did you?
Yeah.
Fair play. Did they lose?
Yes.
Shock horror. So obviously keeping Seamus Callan down is going to be a big part for Bursley here. So I'm not sure if he's going to line out centre forward, full forward. You know, he flitted between the two with Tipperary this year. Brendan Maher is centre back with Bursley, and obviously he's going to look to sweep. Would Drummond look at that and say, well, if we put Callan in there, it forces Brendan Maher to, at the very least, mark him, or Bursley are going to have to move something around if they want a man marker. Maybe Paddy will go on him. I'm not 100% sure. He's not going to tell me.
You're saying that if Callan plays full forward, at least Bursley might lose the launch pad of Brendan been sweeping in around there and getting on a load of ball and clearing.
I think if you're Bursley, like Seamus Callan, if he gets enough ball, he's going to do damage, no matter who's marking. So that's first and foremost. But if he plays full forward, Bursley can pick, right, you mark him and Brendan, you sweep in front of him. That's an ideal scenario for Bursley, I'd imagine. But I don't know if it's going to pan out that way.
The centre forward, they can't do that as much.
You're thinking, right, well, now do we have to get a midfielder to come back, or do we have to get someone to man mark, get a wing back, we'll say, or somebody to man mark him at centre back, and then Brendan, would you try and sweep from wing back, or do you have to rejig the whole thing? So I think these are the sort of battles that are...
A lot of moving parts for stuff like this.
And there has to be. So for Bursley, I think they need Conor Kenny on form. They need, obviously, Dan McCormick on form. And it just, like, I think they need JD Devaney and they need Kevin Maher on a bit of ball. Now, they both had to play club underage games the day before the semi-final against Burgess, which went to double extra time, and then a week later they also had to play for their underage club the day before the North final. Now, I'm not saying that Kildangan wouldn't have won the game anyway.
Are we talking under 20s here?
There was definitely minor. I'm not sure if there was under 20s as well, but there was definitely minor. And
minors playing seniors?
No, as in they had to play in minor championship the day before. and then
Okay.
play the senior the day after. So these lads are going to be tired out.
You're not allowed to play minor and senior.
Huh?
You're not allowed to
No,
play
it's
minor.
under 18.
Oh, you're still under 18. You're still with the tradition. Right, okay.
keep the tradition
That's
going.
That's messy.
Yeah.
It's very messy.
But I'm just saying, it's unbelievably tough on these lads.
Oh,
Now, it could have
very
been under
tough,
20.
yeah.
Just I got the story, and sometimes
that is tough going now, yeah.
No, and I'm not, as I said, I'm not poor mouthing here or giving out
Yeah,
about
you're
anyone.
small bit,
But like the fact that they had to play other games the day before, that's obviously going to
that's
have an
tough,
effect
yeah.
on them. And of course, you're not going to look at young lads to win you the game, but like it doesn't help the situation, is what I'm saying. So
Isn't it
that'd be
funny
interesting
though?
game.
Like that happens a lot, and just because Asher they're young, they'll be able for you know, you definitely won't be able for once you get to your mid to late 20s.
No.
But like it's just because they're young, and geez, we played 3 games in one day 50 years ago. It doesn't mean it's right
At
you
a
know
different
what I mean?
pace.
Yeah,
And of
and
course,
we ran to the venue
Yeah.
in between,
Yeah.
or went in horse and cart or something.
Boris beat Drum by 10 points, I think it was, in the semi-final in 2017. And to my money, Boris have brought through better young players in the meantime. So that's why I tip Boris Lee. But you just don't know. Any game can take on a life of its own. That game was in...
You after morphing into Brian Cody there.
I have a bit, yeah. But like that game was in Thurles in Semple Stadium a couple of years ago. This game's in Holy Cross, different venue.
Yeah.
You know, it can be completely different. Although Burris had a good experience there this year against Clonoulty. Anyway, speaking of Clonoulty, they're against Killerwan at the weekend. Killerwan are kind of my tip for the county title, and I could end up with egg in my face, but I just think for years they've been coming.
This is a ropey game.
Yeah.
This is that should be that's the game of the weekend.
You see, with Clonoulty, they've played extra time in their last couple of games. Will that catch up with them? I don't know, but that's something like there's actually been a rumour going around that Killerwan were in a training weekend in Carton House.
Go away.
There you go now. That's what club is going to, apparently, allegedly.
Shay's involved with Killerwan this year.
Yeah, and he was last year when they won the North title. So they didn't win the North title and lost to Killadangan in the semi-final. Will they have had time to boast themselves? You know, look at everything that they felt was right and might now be exposed as wrong, and think, right, these are the adjustments we make, because they have some talent in that team. And so we'll see how that goes. I think that's probably the tie of the weekend that's going on in
Definitely
Templetuohy.
outside of county finals anyway. Yeah, that's the game of the weekend.
The Wexford semi-finals are on this weekend, so it's Ferns St Aidan's against St Martin's and Rapparees against St Anne's. St Anne's, of course, got through with I think Diarmuid O'Keefe scored a very late winner against Rathnoor, and also so I think St Martin's will be fancied against
Definitely,
Ferns.
yeah, they will. Well, Ferns are a good side.
Yeah,
Paul Morris, James Tonks, a few more, but Martins are just like overflowing with talent, like in all honesty.
So Ferns last
football to be worrying about as well.
Yeah, they got knocked out, yeah. And the last time Ferns got to a final was 2013. They lost to Owler. Sure, Owler were paced and everyone at the time. Just looking at the top scoring chart that Barry Cleary had up, Conor MacDonald is top. So this is the golden hurl, as he's calling it. It should be hurling, of course. But,
no, it should be hurling,
yeah. So top of the charts is Naveana man, Conor MacDonald. Then Seamus Casey from Oilgate, Glenbryan. Then the next two are Rathnoor men. Then the top scorer of someone who's still in the championship is Jack O'Connor on 17. So the point I'm getting to is an awful lot of lads at the top of the chart are gone at this stage. So an awful lot of the heavy hitters won't be there. Actually, Kieran Ling he's in there with 13 from play. The former Wexford football captain, but of course he's playing in that team for St Martin's.
He's around a good while, isn't he?
He is, but I think he's still younger than us.
Nice
bit younger
don't
than
know,
us.
is he?
I'd say he's definitely younger than
we
me.
played the Martins in a Leinster Club semi-final, 10 years ago, 11 years ago now. He was playing.
There you go. So the Longford final is on this weekend. It's hard to get information on the Longford hurling final.
There's a bit out there.
But I know that the Longford goalkeeper in football, Paddy Cullum, he came on for, I think it was Clongish. So it's Clongish against Longford Slashers. And Longford Slashers will be looking to make sure they don't lose back-to-back county title finals in the space of a week. But,
of course, yeah. Jeez, you'd be fairly sickened now, in fairness,
after losing to Carlow last week. But 2 years since Slashers were last in the final, and they have to go back to 0-1 for their last hurling success. They beat Wolftones in the semi-final of Mostrom, which is no mean feat.
Yeah, they were going for 7 in a row this year, and I think they've won 10 of the last 12. So like, Slashers haven't won it. It was Slasher Gales won it in 0-1. Clongish won it 7 years ago. Yeah, it's like by all accounts, like I know from chatting to some of the lads in Mostrom, like they were literally like training. They was just started training some of them the week of the match, like, and
Yeah.
they've had a lot of relatively easy county final wins or county titles the last couple of years. But they're gone, and it's a chance for someone else now. So it should be an interesting game.
And Clongish beat Slashers by a point in the first round game. You know, like a lot of people would kind of almost have a bit of a laugh and a joke at some of the footballing counties where there's just a small little pocket of hurling. And while there are some players who probably not treated with the respect it deserves, there's definitely really passionate hurling people within that. There are always some people. And John Harrington did a piece this week about is it Tony or Tom Stapleton who's over
Tony,
with Tony with Castlebar Mitchells. So they're looking to win their first title since 1955. And he came in for like Holy Cross Ballycahill man in Tipperary. His grandfather hurled for Dublin in the 1892 All-Ireland, and his father Bob was a member of the 1949 All-Ireland winning tip panel. And he's gone in there and been part of what Castlebar have been trying to do.
He got married to a Castlebar woman, and he went up there when he was 36. He had retired. Was quickly taken out of retirement, and then when he eventually did retire, he's basically been chairman since and basically pushing the whole thing. There's a really interesting piece. It's a really good piece actually. There's a lot of green areas in Castlebar, and obviously football is the main sport in Castlebar. So they just kind of maybe this week they'd land to the green, we'll say, in the west part of the town, and there'd be a big green there, and they just bring a coach.
But it was a big cricket area. There's some sort of a cricket name to it, and it's just a massive.
The Mall, I think it was the Mall, and they'd go there for 2 or 3 hours, and like kids would just start flocking out of the houses, and eventually it became a thing where it was going on every week. And I think they had a good bit of underage success earlier on this year already. I think they've won. They were in finals of 14 or 13 and 15, I think, as well. And they're actually flying one of their lads home from Australia for the final, which is really interesting.
Oh, Darren McTeague.
Yeah, like it just. Like I love that kind of stuff happens around the club time of the year. Like you won't hear it unless people are winning. But there's lads coming home from London every weekend. There's lads coming home from England every Friday, like rushing through traffic, getting off work early, getting to playing home, trying to get home to train on the Friday night to play a match on the Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah.
Like, it's happening with clubs all around the country, and it just shows you what people will do for the club. Like,
sure, it's the be all and end all for some people, and like people will sneer at it, but it's their thing. Like
but people that don't understand it, or people that don't, they're like, what are you doing? Like, what? Yeah. You're like obsessed or whatever. Like, and it is a bit of an obsession. Yeah, and you just don't want to feel like you're letting anyone down. Like
Ballyhale and Turin have won all but one title since 01, fairly dominant, and Turin are trying to win their 30th. Do you know the nickname of Turin?
I don't actually.
The Blue Devils. There's some great nicknames around the country.
Blue Devils. There are no tablets called the Blue Devils, no?
You might know better than me.
Sponsorship opportunity right there.
You and Pele, huh? So I think, it was Castlebar Mitchells. They played against the Wyndham with 14 men for the second half of their game against Ballyhale, who missed a free at the end that would have levelled the game.
I thought you were going to do it. Ballyhale, you know the ad on TV at the moment.
So they had a late scare and still got through here. So then looking at their neighbours, Sligo, Easky against Nave Owen in the final at Marketfitz Park this weekend. Huge year for Sligo. Yeah,
in fairness, winning the Christie Ring, they're in Offaly's group for the Christie Ring next year, which is a bit mad. We play my club Borough played Sligo in a challenge game maybe 3 or 4 years ago, like, and we gave them a fair trimming. But things are after coming along a lot. Then everyone will know, like, Keith Raymond probably going to be named Nicky Racker Player of the Year this year. It's an interesting county final because Galway St. Joseph's aren't in it this year, and they're basically the powerhouse of the last decade. So it's a fair chance. Just Easky actually haven't won it since 1963, and to the best of my knowledge, Nave Owen have never won it. They were beaten in last year's final, so it's an interesting pair, and when a powerhouse is taken out, it throws up a massive opportunity for somebody else. So that should be interesting. Easky remember they played their semi-final, we talked about it, on Friday night, like under lights.
Oh yeah, ridiculously late fixture.
Back from Dublin and everything was mad stuff.
So the London semi-finals are on this weekend. Kilburn Gales against St Gabriel's. You'd have a fair bit of knowledge and interest in this.
I would, it's really interesting actually because St Gabriel's are managed by Niall Rogers, he's basically player manager with Gabriel's, and they're playing Kilburn. Niall Rogers from Burr moved over there maybe 7 or 8 years ago, but they're playing Kilburn in the final, Kilburn Gales, and in last year's final, Rogie made a speech after the match and he mentioned Brian Regan in the speech. Brian, who had essentially clinically dead for 6 or 7 minutes, and
Wow.
defibrillator brought him back to life. And Roger was like, it's great to see, wish Brian a full recovery and all like that. And Brian is actually managing Kilburn Gales against Roger's club this weekend.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Yeah, I chatted to Brian Regan about defibrillators and his surviving what he did and how kind of mad it is, and like I suppose thinking that every day, he kind of thinks like that he got a second chance and he never takes anything for granted. And Kilburn wanted him, he couldn't play obviously. He actually has a defibrillator fitted inside him, a little mini one about the size of a matchbox.
So sort of like it is there to jumpstart the heart.
Just in case anything happens, yeah. So he's a really interesting fella, and Kilburn wanted him involved in some capacity this year, so they asked him to come in, and he's manager. And it's just funny that the two lads who would be very friendly and would have played at London together are playing each other in that semi-final. There's actually a double header.
Yeah, Robert Emmett's and Pearce's.
Yeah, Robert Emmett would be heavy favourites in that game. The Pearces we mentioned last week about the Ray brothers who had ended up marking each other in an All-Ireland semi-final.
Yeah, London against Limerick.
One of their sons, JP, would be involved with the Pearces, and Emmett would be strong favourites in that game. But it'll be an interesting. I just think, like, aside from the people that are over there, a lot of people maybe don't know what's going on over there. But again, it's really, really passionate lads. I actually trained, done a few sessions with the Pearces. I trained the Pearces a few times, and I was, getting the tube up to training, and you just see the logistical problems that they have, like getting tubes.
Imagine bringing a hurley, like your gear bag and hurley and helmet on the tube,
That's
which is so packed anyway.
And most, like a lot of the boys be builders or sparkies or whatever. So essentially, when you go to work that morning at 8 o'clock, you're bringing everything with you for the day. You're bringing all your food.
The tool
you're
belt.
bringing your toolbox. You're bringing your hurl, your helmet. You're bringing everything with you to make sure you're at training that night. Yeah. But it's fanatical stuff as well. Like it's great that like. If you get some good lads coming over for working like that, they could be a powerhouse behind the club. Like Roger involved with Gabriel's, I think he's still secretary there as well. They 3 or 4 lads can end up kind of running the whole thing, but it's great that it's keeping going. And I'd probably think it will be a Gabriel's Emmett's final, but there'll be a few interesting stories out of those games.
Right, so that's it for the Club Talk Hurling. Let us know if we've missed anything, and we'll try and get it in next week. And don't forget to follow us by clicking on that button just there.